Petroleum is the fuel that powers modern society. Without it, many tasks would take much, much longer, such as going to school, driving to work, and going to the store. I'm sure we all knew this, but do you know much about petroleum, how it's made, or what it's used in, or just how important to the world it truly is? First, let's talk about how it's made. It's generally accepted that it is made from mud, plankton, tiny plants, and small animals being warmed and pressurized over time. After this process, it usually forms petroleum or natural gas. After that, it goes to the pores of rocks, waiting for some sentient beings to harvest it. Although some resources say that it is made from the movement of tectonic plates or other things that is found on other planets, including Titan, or that's the moon, but it's been seen on other planets. More research is needed in this area because it is just a theory right now. How we harvest it is a different story. The most commonly used method is to send sound waves in the ground to find changes in the densities and areas of the rocks. And once they've found something that could possibly be oil, they grab a few sample rocks called cores. They look at it with a microscope to see if they can find tiny drops of oil. Contrary to popular belief, oil does not form in big pools. It actually forms in the pores of tiny rocks, as we've talked about before. If the test comes positive as there being oil in the pores, then the drilling begins. Oil is found in many countries, but only a few amount of countries produce a lot of it, as America is making the most at the moment at 17.6% of all oil in the world, while Saudi Arabia is behind them. They used to be the top, but then America expanded their oil drilling industry, and now Saudi Arabia is at 12.1% of all the oil made in the world, and Russia is in the close third place behind Saudi Arabia at 11.2%. America makes 11.3 million barrels a day, with Texas, Oklahoma, and North Dakota making the majority. Texas makes a lot of America's oil, most of it, but Oklahoma and North Dakota make a lot too, but not nearly as much as Texas, even if you combine their numbers. Some things we use petroleum for include crayons, dish soap, deodorant, glasses, fabrics, plastics, and tires. The most commonly thing used for oil is fuel sources. But oil is literally fueling the modern world. Oil is cheap, there's tons of it, it's super effective at what it does, it's a big industry paying and giving people millions of jobs, and straight up supporting a few countries like Saudi Arabia and Venezuela before inflation. It's the most effective fuel source out there, and when you mine it, there's a very predictable outcome. A lot of oils or other resources, when you mine them, you could have a chance of getting some, and you could not. So it's just hard to get. But with oil, it's a predictable outcome. But by definition, it's a finite resource. But there's just so much of it, it doesn't really matter. And a lot of the oil wells that was drilled in Texas have been starting to refill. And also they say that we should switch sources, but oil is just so good at what it does. Like if you use a water car, the first water car that was made went like 1 to 2 miles per hour, but the first oil car that was made went to like 30 to 4 miles per hour. So it's just oil is such a better thing than any other fuel source we can find out there right now. This is why I think we should exploit oil as much as we can. It's simply an amazing resource that is cheap and effective.